So I've said it before and I'll say it again. Traditional school is just not something we want for our family anymore. So today, I'm going to share with you some of the steps we're taking as a family to prepare to transition our kids from traditional school to homeschool. And listen, this is not me saying that everybody needs to homeschool. And this is definitely not me saying that traditional school is bad or it's evil. This is me saying that as parents, we have to pay attention to what is happening with our children, pray about it, and be willing to make the hard decisions when something is no longer serving us well. So let's talk about it. Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Asha, and I'm a mom on a mission to weave God's word into every area of my life, one scripture at a time. So if that interests you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. First and foremost, I want to say this: prayer comes first. Before you make any major decisions, especially when it comes to your children's education, you need to take it to the Lord. Homeschooling is not just a school decision. It affects your schedule, your home, your marriage. It affects your work and your finances. And not only that, it affects your children emotionally, spiritually, academically, and socially. So before you start buying curriculum, before you start joining Facebook groups, and before you start watching every homeschool mom on YouTube and comparing your life to her perfectly organized homeschool with the wooden shelves, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You pray first. Ask God for wisdom and clarity. Ask Him to show you if this is the right step for you and your family. And if it is, ask Him to show you how to walk it out, because we want to make obedient decisions, not emotional ones. Now, with that being said, prayer does not mean you just sit still and do nothing. Prayer and planning go together. So yes, pray, but we also research, we prepare, we organize, we count the cost. And the more I've been looking into transitioning from traditional school to homeschool, the more I've realized there are some steps you really want to take before you just pull your kids out of school. Especially if your children have already been in traditional school for a while. There are just some things you have to think through that you may not have had to deal with if you homeschooled immediately from the very beginning. Now, if you're wondering what qualifies me to even talk about homeschooling at all, let me give you a little background. I ran a profitable homeschool business for around 7 years. During that time, I've helped 5 different families homeschool their children successfully, and 2 of those children have actually graduated from high school. So I'm very proud of that. I also began my oldest son's elementary school journey as a homeschool child, and even after transitioning him into traditional school, I continued to homeschool him alongside his school education through the 1st grade, and he's in the 3rd grade now. And that extra foundation increases academic aptitude and eventually placed him in gifted classes. Now, gifted classes are not the goal. Once they leave school, it'll be 100% unimportant that they were ever classified as gifted. The goal was to give him a strong foundation. But I'm sharing that because I'm not just speaking from theory, okay? I have experience homeschooling other people's children. I have experience homeschooling my own child. And I also have experience working in the public and private Christian school systems. And now I'm in the season where I'm seriously preparing my family for what the transition could look like again. So let's get into the steps. The first thing you need to do is get on the same page with your spouse, your partner, or whoever your support system is. Whoever is going to be walking this out with you needs to understand what you're considering and why you're considering it. And if you're married, I really believe this is something you and your spouse need to talk through very deeply. Not just one conversation while you're irritated about something that happened at school. Not, I'm sick of this, I'm pulling them out. Okay? Because I've been there. Don't do that. You got to sit down, talk about the real issues, talk about the goals, your schedule, your finances. Talk about who's going to teach what. Okay? Because y'all need help from each other. Talk about what happens when you're tired, when work gets busy, when the house is a mess, when the kids aren't cooperating, and when your beautiful little homeschool vision starts looking more like everybody's crying at the kitchen table, because it will happen. Trust me, it happens to everybody, and you need a plan for it. Now, I also want to speak to the single parents and single working parents. You can absolutely homeschool your children. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. Single working parents can homeschool, but you need structure. You need support. You need a plan. You cannot successfully homeschool your children completely isolated with no help and no structure, no community, and no margin for error. It is just not doable. So if you're a single parent, or if you work full time, or if your schedule is complicated, start thinking creatively. Do you have family nearby? Do you have a parent, a sibling, cousin, or trusted friend who can help you? Do you have siblings with similar age children, or are there families in your church who are interested in homeschooling too? Are there co-ops in your area? Are there homeschool groups that meet up during the week? Can you trade days with another one of those families? For example, maybe one parent takes Mondays, another parent takes Wednesdays, another family takes Thursdays. Then maybe Tuesday and Friday, the kids do something outside the home, like a nature group, the co-op class, tutoring program, there's sports training, music lessons, parkour, or an all-day enrichment program. You don't have to recreate public school at your kitchen table, but you do need a structure that works for your actual life. The second thing to think about is the homeschool style you're going to choose. And this is important because homeschooling looks different for everybody. Some people do traditional school, which is more structured and looks like school at home. Some families love the Charlotte Mason method, which includes something called living books, nature studies, narration, and a slower, more thoughtful approach to education. Some people use classical education. Some people unschool. Some people use online school. And a lot of people mix and match everything and call it a day. And if I'm honest, that usually ends up being most of us. When my oldest son was younger, I loved unit studies. And I still love unit studies because I like having one central theme and then building subjects around it. Back in school, we used to call this cross-curriculum teaching. It feels organized to me. It makes me feel like I'm not missing pieces everywhere. But every child is different. I'm sure my youngest son may learn differently. Every family is different. Every season of life is different. And that's actually one of the key benefits of homeschool. It shifts with your real life. What worked for me when my son was younger may not be exactly what works for us now. So before you pull your child out of school, I really suggest researching different homeschool styles and then asking yourself, how does my child learn best? How do I teach best? How much structure do we need, and how much flexibility do we need? Do I teach everything myself? Do I need an online program? Do I need outside classes? Do I want a faith-based curriculum? Do I want a literature-based curriculum? Do I want something that's just open and go because my life is already full? And let me say this, especially if you're not a trained educator, it is okay to use help. It's okay to use an online school, and it's okay to use tutors. It's okay to use a curriculum that tells you exactly what to do. You don't get extra holiness points for making homeschooling harder than it needs to be. We're not out here trying to win the Holy Homeschool Olympics, okay? We're trying to educate our children well. So if your child is older and doesn't need as much of the hand-holding, maybe an online school would be a good option. And then you could just supplement with family Bible study, field trips, life skills, projects, and then whatever else matters to your family in particular. That way, you know the main academic boxes are being checked and you can still build around that. Because for me personally, I don't want to leave major academic gaps to chance. I want all hands on deck. And that leads me to the next thing. It's community. One thing I've learned is that many homeschool styles and programs have communities built around them. Some online schools actually have local chapters. Some co-ops are organized by age or by subject. Some homeschool groups meet for park days, museum trips, field trips, nature walks, movie days, science fairs, book clubs, and like other holiday events. So if you're worried about your child being isolated, I want you to know that homeschool does not mean lonely. In order for it to work well, it actually should never mean lonely. But you do have to be intentional. Community will not ever fall into your lap. Well, it could, but it doesn't usually fall into your lap. Sometimes you have to find it, and sometimes you may have to build it yourself. If there's no group that fits your family needs, maybe you just start a small one. Invite 2 families to the park. Start a monthly field trip group. Ask a few moms from church if they want to do a weekly read aloud or a Bible study with the kids. You don't need to start a full-blown homeschool academy. Start with one connection and grow from there. Now, if you're interested in this type of information, I have created a free ebook called Before You Pull Them Out. I'll link it in the description box below, but it just walks you through what to think about before transitioning from traditional school to homeschool. It covers the planning, research, family conversations, some legal considerations, curriculum thoughts, practice routines, and how to start putting things into place before you make the official switch. It's a workbook style, so you can print it out and take notes, check things off, and keep yourself organized as you move through the decision-making process. Again, that link is in the description box below. Now, another very important step is practice. And I know that might sound strange because you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do I practice homeschooling my kid if my kids are still in school? But honestly, this is one of the best advantages you have if your children are currently enrolled in traditional school. You have time to test things out. You have time to see exactly what works. You have time to figure out what your child responds to before you completely change your family's rhythm. So maybe you start with a 10-minute read aloud in the morning, or possibly some copy work after school. Possibly, you do a short Bible study at breakfast time, or maybe you do like a mini homeschool morning on Saturdays where the kids get up, they do their chores, you have breakfast, you do a short devotion, then you do one lesson, one project, one unit, or one read aloud discussion. It does not have to be complicated. The goal is not to recreate an 8-hour school day at home. The goal is to practice the rhythm of learning together. How does your child respond to you teaching them? How do you respond when they're frustrated? What time of the day works best? Do they focus better after movement? Do they need snacks? My kids love snacks. A little too much if you ask me. But you didn't ask, so never mind. Do they need shorter lessons? Do they or do they not like the actual workbooks? Do they thrive with hands-on projects? Do they need more structure? Or do they need more freedom? You can learn so much before you officially homeschool. So if you're in that waiting season, don't waste it. Use it. Practice. Observe. Take notes. Adjust. Because the goal is not to just pull your kids out of school. The goal is to bring them into something better. And better requires preparation. Now, I also want to say this clearly. You do not have to panic prepare. If you're looking at the school system and thinking, this is just not living up to my expectations, you're in good company. If your child is being bullied, struggling socially, falling behind, bored out of their mind, emotionally drained, spiritually confused, or just not thriving, you're allowed to pay attention to that. And no, I don't believe that every child needs to fit in everywhere. I grew up knowing that I wasn't going to fit in certain communities, and honestly, I think I'm better for it. But there is a difference between learning resilience and being in an environment that constantly distracts from growth, from peace, from safety, or from learning. We send our kids to school to be educated, and school is not free daycare. And for those of us paying for private school, baby, it is absolutely not free. So if our children are spending the majority of their day with teachers, peers, systems, rules, and influences that we do not fully control, we need to be honest about whether that environment is helping or hurting. Our children spend so much of their waking hours at school. That matters. Their hearts matter. Their minds matter. Their faith matters. Those friendships, they matter. Their confidence matters. Their ability to learn without constant distractions matters. And as parents, we're allowed to ask hard questions. Is this working? Is my child thriving? Is this environment supporting the values we're teaching at home? Is this the best option for my child in this season? And if the answer is no, you don't have to panic. You can plan. You can pray. You can prepare. Ask God for wisdom. You can gather support and research your options and then practice it at home. You can take one step at a time. This is why I created Before You Pull Them Out, because I know what it feels like to look at the school situation and think that something has to change. But I also know that change goes better when we don't rush blindly into it. So download the free ebook in the description box. Print it out if you want to. Use the notes page. Use the checklists. Talk through it with your spouse or your support system. And start thinking through what homeschooling could realistically look like for you and your family. If this video helped you, please like it, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. I'd really love to know if you're considering homeschool, if you're already homeschooling, or you're just trying to figure out what your next move is. Until next time, be blessed.